Here we go again. President Obama flexing his muscles, considering bypassing Congress in order to pad the government's pockets by raising taxes through executive action. Here's what White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest had to say about it today.
The president has asked his team to examine the array of executive authorities that are available to him to try to make progress on his goals. So I'm not in a position to talk about those in any detail at this point, but the president is very interested in this avenue generally.
Very interested. Joining me now to discuss this is National Taxpayer Union President Pete Sepp and Editor-in-Chief of the National Review, Rich Lowry. Rich, I'll start with you. My big questions tonight: could the president really do this? Would the president do it? Does he have the power?
Well, this is something that clearly be in violation of the spirit of the Constitution. I mean, this is the sort of thing we fought the revolution over, but it's extremely worrisome that Josh Earnest was leaving the door open like that. Because you look at immigration, the president's unilateral actions there, they're completely ruling them out for a long period of time. The president over and over again saying, I didn't have the authority, and he went ahead and did it anyway. So what does it tell us that they're actually saying he's very interested in doing this immediately after it's floated?
Pete, it's up to you. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
I've seen a few things like this, but not to the same degree. We had, of course, during the Clinton administration, a big controversy over the universal service tax, the so-called E-rate, to provide more internet service and hookups to schools and libraries. That was levied by the FCC without congressional authority.
No. I'm talking about the White House. The White House saying, I want to raise taxes here. I've got the middle class on my list. I'm going to take out the 1% they're going to pay. I mean, this is the kind of rhetoric we hear, and now it's going to come directly from the president himself. That's never happened, has it?
Yeah, see, that's a pretty big difference here, because the Treasury and other federal agencies have embarked on these kinds of things with a tacit White House blessing. This could be a direct assault on taxpayers, and we're talking about a lot of creativity here. The thing to remember, Gerri, is for every word of statutory language in the tax code, there are 3 words of administrative rulings and guidelines and implementations. That's where they're going to find the mischief.
Exactly right. They end up doing it with the agencies. The bureaucracies end up writing these rules. Rich, to you. So executive order seems to be the president's 2 favorite words in the English language, and we've seen him come out on many things, immigration among them. What else has he done, and how far can he go? What are the limits here?
Well, this has really been his preferred method of governing since he lost Congress in 2010. And it turns out to be what he's really good at, because he hasn't been able to persuade the country of anything and really move the needle on any public policy. He doesn't have a taste for going, in the halls of Congress and twisting arms. It's just not what he does. So governing on his own turns out to be his strength. And of course, every law is written to have a little give in it so it can actually be administered in the real world. But you can't take that and make up law on your own. And that's what they've done in a whole host of areas, from Obamacare to immigration, perhaps now to this.
That just seems outrageous to me. And of course, Judge Napolitano on our air calling him, the president, a lone wolf. But Pete, to you, the president has tried to get a bunch of tax increases through. Let's walk through some of the ones that we might see just put in place by government fiat. What are they?
Well, of course, Senator Sanders sent a letter to the president saying there are about half a dozen things he could enact through executive order worth about $100 billion over a 10-year period. But there are others they might be able to fiddle with. How about the energy taxes, the ones on oil and gas for dual-capacity taxpayers and manufacturers? Maybe they could find some language to rewrite definitions there and suddenly take those away from oil and gas producers. Let me give a couple here myself.
A death tax increase. You mentioned the energy tax hike, a fee on financial companies. He's talked about that, what he calls middle-class tax relief. Never turns out what the promise is always bigger than the reality. To you, Rich, don't you think there'll be an uprising? I mean, isn't this how this country got started?
No, of course. What I thought there'd be an uprising over a whole host of other things as well, including immigration. We've now seen the Republican Congress just fold on that one. But this would be so blatant, I think it would create a major reaction. But I thought that about the past actions as well. And the president's attitude was, look, I'm going to do it and see what you can do to stop me. Because anything you're going to pass, I can just veto, and if you shut down the government, I'll blame you.
Isn't that why we have three branches? We have three branches so that they can talk and get together and find common ground, so that policy isn't the idea of one person or one party, but a multiplicity of voices.
Of course. And the idea that the president would propose something in his budget, and because he can't get it through Congress, go and do it on his own, whether a court's actually going to strike that down, that is deeply violative of the spirit of the American constitutional order.
Well, I know you guys are going to be watching this one. Thanks for coming on the show tonight. Pete and Rich,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.